You know, when you look up and see all those satellites, like, just silently cruising around up there,
Yeah,
it's easy to kind of forget about them. But inside each one is this, like, super critical piece of equipment
right.
called the payload.
Yeah.
It's essentially like the brains of the whole
It
operation.
is the brains. Yeah, that's actually exactly what we're diving into today, this fascinating market for satellite payloads,
Oh, cool.
based on all that really interesting information that you found.
Yeah, so for anyone listening who maybe hasn't spent too much time thinking about this, a satellite payload is basically like the mission-specific instruments that are on board.
Exactly.
So you've got things like transponders that bounce communication signals back and forth.
Yep.
You've got these incredibly sensitive sensors that are observing the Earth.
Right.
You've got specialized equipment for doing groundbreaking scientific research.
Yeah, it's the whole reason that the satellite is even launched in the first place.
Right. It's like the core function.
It is. It's like you said, without the payload, it's just
Empty shell.
an empty shell.
Exactly.
It's the payload that gives it purpose.
Yeah.
Whether that's, connected to your phone call,
Right.
tracking a hurricane,
Yeah.
guiding your car's navigation system,
Uh-huh.
or peering into the furthest reaches of the cosmos.
Right, and this isn't some niche little corner of the tech world either. This is huge, the scale of this market.
Massive, yeah.
So in 2024, the satellite payload market was valued at over $4 billion US.
Wow.
But get this, projections show it like skyrocketing
Yeah.
to nearly $25 billion by 2032,
Wow.
growing at an average rating over 25% every year.
That is incredible growth.
Yeah, that kind of expansion signals some pretty massive shifts happening.
Definitely. And it's this really interesting combination of factors that are driving this growth.
Yeah.
You've got, the global appetite for more high-speed internet access that just keeps growing and growing. Space explorations is no longer just the domain of governments. Private companies are investing really heavily in it.
Yeah.
And the technology itself is getting more advanced every day.
Right.
So we're able to pack more and more capabilities into smaller and smaller satellites.
Yeah, we're seeing this huge explosion in miniaturized satellite technology and then the involvement of private players. Like you said, I mean, think about SpaceX and Amazon
Absolutely.
deploying these huge constellations in low Earth orbit.
Yep, for global internet.
Yeah, so that's really driving things forward. And then on top of that, you've got this ever-increasing need for detailed geospatial intelligence.
Yes.
The need to carefully monitor our changing climate.
Of course.
And the increasing demand for really enhanced defense surveillance systems.
Yeah.
And all of these rely heavily on advanced satellite payloads.
They do. It's really incredible when you connect all this together.
Yeah.
All these individual demands and all these technological leaps are coming together to create this perfect storm for the payload market.
Right. It's like this perfect environment for growth.
It is. It's not just one sector pushing this. It's this whole network of interconnected needs and advancements.
So with this, booming market as our backdrop, we wanted to try to understand who the major players are.
Right.
Now, it's important to note for you listening that we're not just looking at who's the biggest overall.
Yeah.
We dug into some really specific factors to understand market leadership based on all the information you gave us.
Right. The analysis you provided wasn't just about revenue. It was about a lot of different criteria.
Yeah, we considered things like their total earnings and market share, which are pretty direct measures of financial health and market dominance.
Exactly.
But we also looked at their product range,
Yeah.
the variety and the quality of the payloads they're offering for all the different applications we've talked about,
Right.
communications, navigation, Earth observation, scientific research, the whole range.
It's like their toolbox.
Right.
How comprehensive is it? How capable are the tools inside?
Yeah, exactly. And then we looked at the specific features of their payloads.
Right.
Like frequency bandwidth.
Right.
Think of that as like the number of lanes on a digital highway.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. The more lanes you have, the more data can travel simultaneously.
Exactly.
Which is super important for things like streaming high-definition video from space.
Absolutely.
And then you got power efficiency.
Right.
How much energy does the payload actually need to operate?
Yeah.
Which is crucial for keeping those satellites running for a long time.
It is, especially when you think about the cost of getting them up there in the first place.
Right. And weight optimization is key, too.
Uh-huh.
Lighter payloads mean lower launch costs.
Absolutely.
So that's a big factor. And finally, we looked at how adaptable these payloads are to different orbits.
Right.
Whether it's geostationary orbit.
Way out there.
Yeah, way out there for that consistent coverage.
Right.
Medium Earth orbit, EO, somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
Or low Earth orbit, LEO.
Closer to Earth.
Yeah, closer in for that lower latency.
Exact.
And then, of course, we looked at technological innovation.
Yeah.
Which companies are pushing the envelope
Right.
with things like advanced digital payloads,
Right.
optical communication, which uses light to transmit data at incredible speeds,
Yeah.
and high-throughput satellite technologies,
Right.
which can handle these massive amounts of information.
It's incredible how much data they can move now.
Yeah, so are they developing solutions for things like deep space missions or even like ultra-secure quantum encryption?
Which is still kind of on the horizon, but
Yeah, but it's coming.
it's coming. Yeah.
So we also looked at global presence.
Right.
Can these companies serve a wide array of markets across the globe?
Yeah.
Do they have strong partnerships with major space agencies?
Yeah, like NASA, ESA, ISRO.
Yeah, and private operators as well.
That's a really important factor.
Yeah, because that international reach is really essential for true market leadership.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you have to consider who's investing in research and development.
Yeah.
Which companies are really committing resources to creating the next generation of payload technology?
Because that's where the future is going to be decided.
Exactly.
And lastly, we considered their strategic alliances and collaboration. Who are they partnering with, whether it's launch providers, satellite manufacturers, or telecommunications company?
It's all about expanding their reach.
Yeah, and really enhancing their offerings.
Exactly.
So by examining all these different factors, we can get a much clearer picture of who's really in the driver's seat.
Yeah. It's a much more comprehensive view for the listener.
Right. It's not just about one number. It's the whole picture.
Exactly. The complex interplay of all these different elements.
Okay, so based on this detailed analysis, we've got our top 5.
The top 5 companies manufacturing satellite payloads.
And we're going to delve into each one, starting with the current leader.
Leading the way is Lockheed Martin Corporation.
That's right. They've got a commanding 23% share of the market. So let's unpack this a little bit for you listening. Their core strengths seem to be their highly advanced payload technologies. They've got a really robust space infrastructure.
Right, meaning they have the facilities and the experience.
Exactly. And a very significant number of contracts with both government and commercial clients.
Which is impressive.
Yeah, and they cater to a really broad spectrum of applications.
They do. It's interesting that they're not just focused on one specific area.
Right. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Their solutions, like their A2100 satellite bus and their LM400 series, are known for being really adaptable.
Right.
They're power efficient and have really sophisticated signal processing capabilities.
Yeah, you can really tailor them for a wide variety of missions.
Exactly.
And they definitely have the contracts to back up their leadership position.
They do.
Just in 2023, they got this massive $2.3 billion contract with the U.S. Department of Defense.
Wow.
To develop next-generation secure military communication payloads.
That is huge.
Yeah, that's a major vote of confidence.
Definitely a huge indicator of their capability.
But it's not just government work. They're also working with major telecommunications companies to deliver high-throughput satellite payloads for global data transmission.
Which is such a growing area.
Yeah, and here's where it gets interesting for you listening.
Okay.
They're not just resting on their laurels, they're really investing in innovation, particularly in integrating artificial intelligence and machine learning into their payloads.
Wow, so satellites that can make decisions on their own.
Yeah, imagine that satellites processing huge amounts of data and making autonomous decisions.
That's incredible. It really changes the game in terms of satellite operations.
Yeah, and they're also creating these modular and software-defined designs,
right,
which means they can actually reconfigure these payloads while they're already in space.
So one satellite could serve multiple purposes?
Yeah, or adapt to changing needs over time.
That is some next-level stuff.
Yeah, and their R&D budget is massive, over $1.5 billion a year.
Wow, that's a statement.
Yeah, it shows how committed they are to staying ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And it really benefits the whole industry.
Right.
When a company like that invests that heavily in R&D, it pushes everyone forward.
Yeah, and they're not just focused domestically either. They're expanding globally.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're working with international space agencies in Asia-Pacific and Europe.
It makes sense.
And they just committed $500 million to expand their manufacturing facilities.
Wow.
So they're significantly boosting their production capacity.
That's a clear signal they're anticipating growth.
Yeah, they're getting ready to meet that demand.
And it strengthens their supply chain, which is so crucial in this industry.
Definitely. And it's not just about the payloads themselves.
Right.
They're also investing in advanced propulsion systems.
To get those satellites into orbit more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. Multi-mission capabilities to make satellites more versatile and enhance cybersecurity measures to protect those assets.
Of course, cybersecurity is paramount these days.
It's essential. So Lockheed is firing on all cylinders.
It sounds like it.
Now, moving on to the second largest player, Northrop Grumman Corporation.
Right.
They hold a significant 18% of the market share.
So they're a major force.
Yeah, they've really established themselves with their expertise in in high-performance sensor technologies
Hmm.
and secure communication payloads.
Makes
They're
sense.
big players in both the defense and commercial sectors,
Right.
especially in areas like intelligence gathering, surveillance, and environmental monitoring.
So they got their fingers in a lot of pies.
They do, and their S-Star platform is really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's this adaptable payload solution
Okay.
that can be used for national security satellites
Uh-huh.
and commercial communication systems.
So it's really versatile.
Yeah, that kind of adaptability is really valuable in a diverse market like this.
It is. You've got to be able to cater to a wide range of needs.
And they're also securing some big contracts.
Like what?
In 2023, they got a $1.8 billion deal with NASA for scientific payloads going to the moon and even deeper into space.
That's amazing. So not just Earth orbit stuff.
Yeah, they're going beyond that,
Mm.
which shows their expertise in really specialized scientific instruments
Right.
designed to withstand extreme conditions.
Absolutely. Deep space is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, those instruments have to be incredibly tough and reliable.
And they have to gather that really crucial scientific data.
Right, which is completely different from like a communication payload.
Definitely. Different challenges, different requirements.
So it shows they're not just a one-trick pony.
And that kind of expertise is invaluable.
Yeah, especially in those high-stakes areas like defense and scientific research.
Right, where reliability and accuracy are absolutely critical.
Yeah, the margin for error is so small.
Exactly.
But they're not overlooking the future either.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're investing in artificial intelligence and digital twin technology.
Okay, so being able to create a virtual replica of a payload
Yeah,
to test it and optimize its performance,
exactly. And even to predict when maintenance might be necessary.
that's amazing. Like preventative maintenance in space.
Yeah, that kind of foresight could really lead to big efficiencies.
It could. It's a really strategic move. It allows for so much more efficient design and operation.
And potentially significant cost reductions in the long run.
Yeah,
They're also expanding globally through partnerships in Europe and Asia Pacific.
smart.
And they just dropped $400 million to upgrade their manufacturing facilities.
Wow, so they're increasing production capacity too.
Yeah, it seems like everyone is preparing for increased demand.
Yeah, that's a clear sign of where the market is headed.
And they have a strong focus on miniaturization.
Okay, making those components smaller and lighter,
Right, and integrating advanced computing architectures into their designs.
which is essential for getting the most out of those satellites.
Especially when you consider launch costs.
Absolutely. Smaller, lighter, more powerful payloads are the name of the game.
So up next we have Raytheon Technologies Corporation.
All right.
They hold a strong 15% share of the market.
So still a major player.
Definitely. Their core strength lies in their expertise in radar,
Uh-huh.
electro-optical,
Right.
and hyperspectral imaging payloads.
Interesting.
Yeah, they provide critical technology for government,
Of course.
military, and commercial applications.
So a real mix.
Yeah, everything from missile defense systems
Right.
to space-based surveillance and environmental monitoring.
Really diverse portfolio.
Yeah, their signature offerings like the advanced GPS OCS system
Okay.
and their space-based infrared sensors have become kind of industry benchmarks.
Yeah, when you see the Raytheon name, you're dealing with high-quality stuff.
Exactly. It's that reputation for precision and reliability.
It's really interesting for the listener how diverse their portfolio is.
Yeah,
They're not limited to just one type of sensing technology.
right.
That gives them a real advantage in meeting a wide range of requirements.
And they're consistently landing big contracts.
Like what?
In 2023, they got a $1.5 billion deal with the U.S. Department of Defense
Wow.
to develop the next generation of space-based missile tracking payloads.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, again, highlighting their involvement in these mission-critical applications.
Right. Those missile tracking payloads have to be incredibly accurate and responsive.
Yeah, they're a fundamental part of modern defense strategies.
And they're not just focused on government work either.
Right.
They're expanding into the commercial market too.
Yeah, they're working with telecommunications companies to deliver broadband internet payloads.
So they're recognizing the potential of that mega constellation market.
Absolutely. They're diversifying their revenue streams,
Smart move.
and they're focused on miniaturization and cost-effective production,
Okay.
specifically targeting the small-sat and CubeSat markets.
Which is a smart move given the growth in those segments.
Yeah, that focus on cost-effectiveness is really crucial there.
It is, especially when budgets are more limited.
Right. They're also investing heavily in R&D.
Uh-huh.
Over $600 million went into upgrading their facilities.
Wow.
And they're focusing on developing lightweight, energy-efficient, and you guessed it, software-defined payloads.
It seems like that's becoming a universal priority.
It really is.
The flexibility it offers is a real game changer.
Yeah, you can reconfigure those payloads through software updates,
Right.
which could potentially extend the life of the satellite.
And change its purpose entirely.
Right. They're also integrating AI-driven analytics into their payloads.
For real-time data processing.
Yeah, because think about the sheer volume of data these satellites are collecting.
It's mind-boggling.
Having AI on board to analyze that data in real time,
Yeah.
it's a huge advantage in terms of speed and efficiency.
Absolutely. It means you don't have to send all that raw data back to Earth.
Right, you can process it right there in orbit.
And get those insights much faster.
Okay, moving on, we've got Thales Alenia Space.
Oh, right.
Holding a 7% share of the market.
Okay.
They bring a lot of European aerospace expertise to the table.
Right.
As a joint venture between Thales Group and Leonardo SPA, they specialize in high-performance telecommunications,
Right.
Earth observation, and navigation payloads.
Makes sense.
They've been a key supplier for some major satellite constellations.
Oh, yeah.
Like Galileo.
For global navigation.
Right. Iridium Next for worldwide communication services. And SES for broadband internet.
Wow, so they're behind a lot of the infrastructure we use every day?
Yeah, they're kind of the unsung heroes of the space industry.
It's interesting that they've been involved in these large-scale multinational projects.
Yeah, it shows they can handle really complex requirements.
Absolutely. And consistently deliver those high-performance payloads.
For those globally critical services.
Right, like we were saying before, reliability is key.
And they continue to secure big contracts.
Like what?
They got a $750 million deal with the European Space Agency in 2023 for next-generation Earth observation payloads. Yeah, these are specifically focused on climate monitoring and disaster response.
So they're really contributing to addressing those global challenges.
Absolutely. They're providing invaluable data for scientists and policymakers.
And they're developing software-defined payloads, too.
Yeah, it seems like that's the future.
It does. It's quickly becoming the industry standard.
Right.
The ability to adapt to changing needs in orbit is a game changer.
And they recently invested $300 million in expanding their facilities in France and Italy.
To improve their operational efficiency.
Yeah, they're getting ready for that increase in demand.
That investment shows they're committed to staying competitive.
And they're pushing the boundaries of technology, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're focusing on AI-driven signal processing.
Right.
Quantum communication payloads.
Which is really cutting edge.
Yeah, and green propulsion technologies.
So they're thinking about sustainability, too.
Yeah, they're thinking about the long-term impact of their work.
That focus on quantum communication is particularly interesting. It has the potential to revolutionize secure data transmission.
And finally, rounding out our top 5 with a 5% share of the market is L3Harris Technologies, Inc.
All right.
They specialize in ISR.
Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
Right.
Okay.
Along with secure communications and defense-grade imaging payloads.
Makes sense.
They're a key provider for military and intelligence agencies.
Right.
But they also contribute to commercial space missions.
So they bridge that gap between the defense world and the commercial world?
Yeah, they're a really interesting company. They provide advanced sensor payloads for the U.S. Space Force and NASA.
Wow.
Supporting everything from missile detection and climate monitoring to deep space exploration.
That's a pretty wide range of applications.
Yeah, they're involved in a lot of really important endeavors.
It's interesting how they leverage their defense expertise for the commercial market as well.
Yeah.
They're able to offer that high reliability technology to a wider range of customers.
And they've secured some major contracts, too. In 2023, they got a $600 million deal to supply secure communication payloads for defense.
Wow.
That really solidifies their role as a trusted provider for the military.
Yeah, when it comes to defense, secure and dependable communication is absolutely essential.
And they're expanding their presence in the commercial market as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're offering cost-effective solutions for small satellite operators.
So they're tapping into that growing segment of the market.
Exactly. They're adapting their technology and their business model to meet those needs.
It's a smart way to expand their market reach.
And they're investing in R&D, too.
How much?
$250 million recently focused on AI-powered analytics.
Okay.
Advanced optical payloads, and multi-MIMON sensor systems.
So payloads that can do more than one thing.
Exactly. They're staying ahead of the curve.
It seems like AI and multi-mission capabilities are going to be increasingly important.
I think so.
And they're also forming strategic collaborations.
Yeah, with satellite manufacturers and government agencies.
Partnerships are so important in this industry.
They really are. It allows companies to leverage each other's strengths.
Right, and share those inherent risks of development.
Okay, so we've covered the big 5.
The current leader.
But things are constantly changing, right?
They are. It's a dynamic market.
So there are some potential challenges on the horizon.
Definitely. Some emerging threats to watch out for.
Yeah, the information you shared also highlighted some really interesting up-and-coming players.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
Well, you've got companies like Airbus Defense and Space Sierra Nevada Corporation,
Right.
SpaceX, the Boeing Company,
Interesting.
and Honeywell International, Inc.
So real mix of established players and newer companies.
Exactly. And each one has their own strengths and strategies.
Right.
So let's talk about what makes them potential disruptors.
Okay.
Airbus Defence and Space has a strong presence in Europe.
They do.
And they're really pushing the envelope with their technology.
In what way?
Well, they're expanding their presence in both GEO and LEO orbits.
Okay.
And they're investing heavily in artificial intelligence for data processing.
That's a smart move.
Yeah, they're a company to watch, for sure.
It sounds like they're leveraging their experience in the broader aerospace industry
Right.
to make a real impact in the payload market.
And then you've got Sierra Nevada Corporation. They're known for their modular and scalable payload solutions.
Right.
And their advancements in both sensor and communication technologies.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they've got strong partnerships with both government and private companies.
That kind of flexibility gives them a real edge.
It does.
They can adapt quickly to changing demands.
And then, of course, there's SpaceX.
Yeah.
I mean, they've completely shaken up the space industry.
They have, with their Starlink constellation.
Right.
And their reusable rockets.
Yeah, they've brought launch costs way down.
And they're really pushing the limits of satellite miniaturization.
They're a force to be reckoned with.
Their vertical integration is a major advantage.
Yeah, they control so much of the process.
Which allows them to innovate really quickly.
Then you have the Boeing company.
Okay.
They're a more established player, but they're still innovating.
In what areas?
They're focused on high-throughput communications, space-based surveillance,
right,
and next-generation satellite bus platforms.
So they're building on their heritage.
Yeah, they've got a lot of experience and technical know-how.
Boeing is definitely a company that's going to stay relevant.
And lastly, we have Honeywell International, Inc.
Okay.
They're bringing innovative solutions to the table.
In what areas?
Secure communications and navigation.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they've got a strong commitment to R&D.
And they're leveraging their expertise from other industries?
Yeah, they're really good at applying their knowledge to new areas.
It's impressive how they're making inroads into the market.
So what's allowing these emerging players to gain traction?
It's a combination of factors, really.
Yeah, like what?
Well, innovation is crucial.
Right, they're pushing the boundaries with new technologies.
Yeah, and finding new approaches to old problems.
Cost efficiency is also key.
Absolutely, especially for companies like SpaceX, who are driving down launch costs.
More sustainability becoming more and more important.
Right.
Some of these newer companies are really focused on responsible practices.
Which is great to see.
And they're expanding into new markets, offering specialized products.
Okay.
And they're increasing their global footprint.
So they're thinking strategically about their growth.
Yeah, and they're investing in R&D,
right,
expanding their production capacity, and forming strategic partnerships.
It's a very dynamic landscape.
It really is. It's exciting to see how it's evolving.
And even though the barriers to entry might seem high, there's definitely room for new players to succeed.
They focus on innovation and have a clear strategy.
Exactly.
So for someone listening who might be thinking about entering this market, what are some key guidelines for excelling in such a competitive space?
The key takeaway here is that developing payloads that are both advanced and cost-effective is absolutely essential.
Makes sense. You can't just have great tech. It has to be affordable, too.
And you've got to focus on improving performance, efficiency, and adaptability.
Right.
Particularly for those core areas like communications, Earth observation, and navigation.
Okay. And how do you stay ahead of the curve in terms of technology?
Well, you've got to leverage those advancements in miniaturization.
Okay.
Utilize AI for onboard data processing. And adopt those modular architectures.
To allow for upgrades and reconfigurations.
Exactly.
And what about keeping costs down?
That's where those advanced manufacturing techniques come in.
Right.
Things like 3D printing, AI-driven automation, and sustainable manufacturing practices.
So you can reduce lead times and improve scalability.
And all while keeping costs under control.
So where should new companies be looking for opportunities?
Well, the Asia-Pacific region and the Middle East are both really promising markets. They've got a lot of growth potential.
Driven by government funding and the development of their own space programs.
Right.
And forming strategic partnerships is crucial.
Absolutely.
Especially with commercial operators and defense organizations.
It can really help build credibility.
And are there any specific tech trends to watch out for?
Yeah, the shift towards software-defined payloads and reconfigurable satellites is creating a lot of opportunities.
So being able to offer specialized solutions for things like satellite broadband, space-based IoT, and deep space exploration can really set a company apart.
Exactly.
It's about finding your niche.
And offering something valuable to a specific segment of the market.
And what about customization?
That's another key area.
Okay.
Being able to tailor solutions to meet specific mission requirements.
Like high-res imaging or secure communications.
Exactly.
So it's all about blending innovation.
Right.
Cost efficiency, smart market strategies, strong partnerships. and staying ahead of the trends.
That's the recipe for success in this market.
So to sum everything up, the satellite payload market is transforming before our eyes.
It is. And the growth potential is huge.
Yeah, from $4.1 billion in 2024 to almost $25 billion by 2032.
With an average annual growth rate of over 25%.
That's incredible.
And those key driving forces are still in play.
Yeah, the demand for connectivity, advancements in Earth observation,
Right.
and the investment in space exploration and security are all pushing the market forward.
The competitive landscape is so interesting right now.
Yeah, you've got established leaders investing in R&D,
Right.
and you've got these agile newcomers trying to disrupt the status quo. So for future success, companies need to find that balance
Between innovation and cost management.
Yeah, and they need to expand their product offerings and adapt to those major trends like mega constellations and software-defined satellites. The companies that can invest in R&D,
Right.
diversify their portfolios,
Yep.
and offer high-performance, scalable, and secure payloads.
They would be the ones who come out on top.
Yeah, this market is all about innovation and strategic expansion.
Absolutely. The future is bright for the companies who can navigate this landscape effectively.
Well, that was a fascinating deep dive into the world of satellite payloads.
It was. It's a market that's full of potential.
And thank you to you listening for joining us.
We appreciate you being here.
Covered